Alone in his room, Gav left the torches unlit. Moonlight dancing through the piles of detritus from his workshop cast weird shadows against the walls. He dropped onto his pallet and held his head in his hands. Watching someone immolated right in front of him was quite a different thing than hearing the rumors that he had done so in the past, whether or not they were true. The look on her face, the sound, the smell, and Zara Konar had done it quickly to deliver the hammer blow of power back up to her sponsor. Gavarax would have had no reason to do so. He suspected a person could burn for longer than that. Much longer. He couldn't understand it. Whatever it was that made him able to think about such an action in the past was just gone. He didn't have the ruthlessness or the guts, which was a major problem because he was fairly certain that guts and ruthlessness were exactly what Gavarax had used to survive this long. Somehow he hadn't believed it would really come to this. Not really. He thought that he would find some magical way out, or that a hero would come along and take Zara Konar down for him. Well, he'd seen how well that had gone. There was no magical rescue coming, and his memory, and whatever cold-bloodedness he had had, weren't coming back. For a moment, he just let the despair well up over his head. He was going to die here. He knew it. There was no way Zara Konar's plan involved sharing power with him, not after the way he had been treated. He was a patsy, sent to take care of the easiest tasks so that Zara Konar wouldn't have to bother. His purpose in life was almost through, and the worst of it was, he had never even known why. Not really. He took a shuddery breath and let it out. No. Zara Konar would probably win, but he hadn't won yet. And maybe Gav would die, but he didn't have to die like he had lived, blindly stumbling along and making other people make the sacrifices. He didn't know what Gavarax would have done, but he wasn't really Gavarax, was he? Gavarax hadn't trusted anyone, it was obvious. He had been so focused on his own reputation and arrogance and power that he had stumbled right into Zara Konar's trap to begin with. Ruthlessness hadn't helped him. Gavarax had had his chance. Gav was making the decisions now. He headed for the princess's stall. Cell. To her cell. My lord, Throck himself was standing outside the door. I'll be a few minutes, Throck, he said casually as he could. See that we're not disturbed. He closed the door behind him, hoping Throck would not listen too carefully. Alicia sat primly on her pallet, ring on and princess guise firmly in place. No trace of Wren's practical clothing. She did not look particularly happy to see him. Fiari fluffed up his feathers in indignation at his arrival. Gav took a deep breath. This wasn't going to be easy. He had the sneaking suspicion that the words he was about to say had never before crossed his lips. Back from playing with the rest of your evil friends? Her voice was cold. That's the end of the chapter. I'm going to start chapter 12. She cut him off. I should have known better than to trust you. I helped you, despite my best instincts. But you haven't changed at all, have you? She clearly brooded herself into a state, and he had no idea what had set her off. She had been upset with him even when they left the dungeon. He knew that, but this was not upset. He took a guess. I'm sorry you're still stuck in this cell. I swear I'm trying to figure out a way to get you out of here. But we can't have you wandering around where they can catch you, and I don't know what. You think I'm upset about being in the cell? She laughed once, a harsh, incredulous bark. No, he said hesitantly. We heard the scream, Gavarax, she said flatly. We heard the guards gossiping. You made a huge deal over how relieved you are not to have burned a few specific people to death, and then that evening, that very evening, you burned someone to death." "I did not," he said hotly. His fingers twitched, the beginnings of flame of rage making his fingertips tingle. "That was Zarakonar." "Did you stop him?" "No." The rage curdled inside him. She was right. It wasn't her that he was mad at. "I didn't." "So you are a hypocrite, or just a coward?" "Are you a hypocrite, or just a coward?" He would have liked to see her do better, he thought viciously. And then he realized she would have. She would have stood up to Zarakonar even if it meant her death. He would never be her equal. He closed his eyes. He took another deep breath. He wasn't a hero, and he had failed again. But that didn't mean he couldn't keep trying. So he could look himself in the eye, even if no one else would. He had come here with something to say. He would say it and hope that she didn't throw it back in his face. "I am sorry," he said. Her mouth began to open, ready to lash out again. She paused. "You were right, and I am sorry." The looks on their faces were comical. He hadn't even known roosters could look surprised. He realized, startled, that he felt more comfortable in this room, surrounded by people who should be his enemies, than he had all through dinner with his allies. "What exactly are you apologizing for? And what exactly was I right about?" she finally said. He hadn't expected that she would demand an itemized list. Everything. She folded her arms. "It doesn't count if you don't know." Fiari's head turned back and forth with each volley, his wattle bobbling each time. Gav blew out a breath. "You were right that intent matters. You were right that it doesn't really matter why Garavax acted like he did. If I want to be better, I need to do better. And the fact is that I have been a hypocrite and a coward. And I'm sorry that I got you into this mess to begin with. And I'm sorry that I don't know how to get you out." "I see." Her tone was dangerously bland. "I don't know what I'm doing," he confessed. "So I have come to the only actual strategy expert I know, in hopes that she might be wise enough to rescue me from my folly." She blinked at that and then blushed slightly. It was the only compliment that might have had an effect, he suspected. Gods, she was magnificent, with or without the glamour. If only... He shook it off. So she had recovered some of her aplomb. "So let's review what we know. Zarakonar is summoning an ancient god. Somehow I am involved in this ritual, most likely as a sacrifice. We can't figure out how to get me away from the ritual, so we need to find some way of disrupting it without backlashing and killing us all." Well, yes, that. She took a breath through her nose. "So that remains the next step." "What, figuring out the ritual?" He gave a bleak little laugh. "Because that's gone well so far." "But that was while Zarakonar was off in his stronghold somewhere," she said slowly. "Now he's here." "And that's supposed to make things better?" "More dangerous, certainly, but maybe more possible," she said, her forehead creased in thought. "Tell me, teacher, why do you have so many scrolls instead of memorizing them, besides the obvious current difficulty, that is?" He tried to calm his heart, which had started to race as soon as they'd started talking about Zarakonar. "Because rituals require extremely precise steps, done perfectly, and almost no one wants to trust their memory absolutely, especially for the parts that have to be done in a timed sequence. It's too risky." She nodded. "Which means..." He had a sinking feeling that he knew where she was going with this. "That he most likely has the ritual written down, and that he must have brought it with him. So, if we're lucky, the knowledge we need is right here, in the castle," she said. "If we're lucky," he snapped. "And even if he doesn't have it here, it will be under so many wards it might as well be on the moon." "I will go," said a voice from the floor. They both looked down at the rooster in surprise. For a moment, Gav honestly forgot that he was there. Fiari puffed up his breast, the many feathers fluffing. That is where this is going, isn't it? You need someone to sneak into his rooms. You need a hero. There is only one hero in this room. You are a chicken, Gav pointed out. Rooster, thank you. And I still have the heart of a hero, Fiari insisted with as much dignity as he could. Another feather, loosened by all the fluffing, chose that moment to drift to the floor. You are also an idiot, snapped Alicia. You couldn't outwit Gav here, and he doesn't even have a working memory. How do you expect to get in? Fiari's comb drooped a bit, but he mustered on. Because he won't have it warded against chickens. Roosters, she muttered. He had known he liked her for a reason, and he wanted her to stop looking at him with so much contempt. Maybe not with no contempt, that seemed like too much to hope for, but at least less contempt. He wanted her help. He needed to earn it. We don't need a hero, he said slowly. We had a hero earlier this evening. Alicia's lips pressed together, remembering the screaming. Heroes aren't going to stand against Zarakonar. He's too powerful, he said, and Arthanos equipped heroes, and they've all failed. We need someone else. I'm going to look and see how much is left in this chapter. I'm going to finish. Not the chapter, but the section. She looked at him with something that might have been dawning respect. He straightened up. You're right. Someone does need to sneak into his quarters, he said, fighting the nausea at the thought of what he was proposing. And Fiari is right, as much as I hate to admit it. It needs to be someone he won't expect. And right now, he thinks I am a coward. I'm the last one he would expect. But how I am going to get there without him noticing is beyond me. Alicia pursed her lips. A diversion would help. You could try to escape, Fiari suggested. Alicia shivered at the memory of her last attempt to leave the castle, and then straightened her shoulders. If I must. He couldn't ask her to do that. No, wait. They both looked at him. We have one more potential ally.